Hello and a very good morning. You're watching the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha television with me, Frank Pereira. Here are this morning's headlines. DG-level talks between India and Pakistan extended by a day after positive developments on day one on Thursday. Bombay High Court to hear petition over meat ban during the Jain festival of Paryushan. Court has said that imposing the ban is not feasible. Nearly 1 lakh people abandoned their homes following widespread flooding and landslides in northeast Japan. And Parupalli Kashyap advances to the third round of the Japan Open Super Series badminton tournament. He will take on his Chinese Taipei rival today. First up in the bulletin. Well, today is day 2 of the DG-level talks between India and Pakistan. In a positive development on day 1, the talks were extended so that protocols to be put in place to end ceasefire violations can be discussed. The talks will conclude on Saturday. Here are the details.
Talks between the chiefs of Indian and Pakistani border forces extended by a day. Positive signs considering the talks were held in the shadow of frequent ceasefire violations along the line of control in Jammu and Kashmir. After the NSA-level talks between the two countries were scored off, the DG-level talks assume significance as they're being held after over a year's gap. A top government source told PTI, and I quote, "The most significant takeaway of the talks has been that the two sides agreed that maintenance of peace and tranquility on this border is the most important issue, and this needs to be implemented on the ground," unquote. Border Security Force Chief D.K. Pathak, during a public function of Central Investigative Agency NIA in the evening on Thursday, told PTI that the Indian side was happy after the deliberations on the first day. He said, and I quote, "I wouldn't say anything beyond that. The talks went on in a very cordial manner and we are happy about it," unquote. Today's talks will focus on protocols that will be put in place to put an end to ceasefire violations. Pakistani rangers are believed to have asked the BSF to initiate joint patrolling along mutually identified areas at the border.
DG level talks हो रही हैं, अभी तो खत्म नहीं हुई हैं. जब खत्म होगी तो फिर अपना हम रिएक्शन देंगे इंशाल्लाह.
While India and Pakistan seem to have found some meeting ground on the talks table, there is no such movement on the political front at home. The Congress has asked the talks to be cancelled on the grounds that the government is not following a defined policy towards Pakistan.
Well, why is India talking to Pakistan? They keep on exporting terror and we keep on talking to them. This government, for the past 10 years, this Prime Minister kept saying that terror and talks cannot go hand in hand. So they should remain consistent on their stand.
रिश्ते भारत की तरफ से कभी खराब नहीं होते. जो भी गड़बड़ी होती है पाकिस्तान की तरफ से होती है. लेकिन गोलाबारी के बीच में भी बातचीत होती है, रेंजर्स की और बीएसएफ की होती है. ये एक नेचुरल कोर्स में बातचीत होती है. पाकिस्तान को ये बताया गया है कि जिस तरह की भाषा वो बोलते हैं उस भाषा में भारत जवाब देने में सक्षम है.
The concluding session and signing of the joint accord of discussions between the two Director Generals will be held on Saturday. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has a packed schedule for the days as he will be touring 3 places. First of all, he will be in Chandigarh, where he will address a public rally and will inaugurate a new terminal of the Chandigarh airport. He will also attend the 34th convocation ceremony of the Postgraduate Institute of Medical Education and Research Centre. Later in the day, the Prime Minister will visit the Swami Dayanand Saraswati Ashram in Rishikesh to spend some time with Swami Dayanand Giri, who is unwell. And finally, he will address people at Sarsava near Saranpur in western Uttar Pradesh. Meanwhile, the government has hinted that the forthcoming winter session of Parliament could be preponed to pass key reform measures. This comes a day after the Cabinet decided to prorogue the monsoon session, ruling out a special session for the GST Amendment Bill. On Thursday, both ruling BJP and key opposition Congress traded charges over who's responsible for stalling the crucial tax reform.
On Wednesday, the Cabinet decided to prorogue the monsoon session, ruling out a special session of Parliament to move the GST Amendment Bill in the upper house. A day later, BJP and Congress stepped up the rhetoric over the bill, blaming each other for scuttling it. Addressing the World Hindi Conference in Bhopal, Prime Minister Narendra Modi targeted the key opposition party, accusing it of obstructing the bill during the monsoon session.
एक के बाद एक संसद में जो निर्णय हुए हैं और उसमें भी काले धन के खिलाफ जो कठोर कानून बनाया है, उसके कारण जो हवालाबाज है, और इसलिए ये हवालाबाजों की जमात लोकतंत्र में रुकावटें पैदा करने का प्रयास कर रही है.
Modi's jibe came 2 days after Congress President Sonia Gandhi's remark on the performance of the government. Congress blamed the ruling party for not doing enough to end the deadlock during the monsoon session.
The blame of the deadlock or logjam in Parliament lies squarely with the Prime Minister and with the BJP government. And I would also like to remind the Prime Minister and his ministers that they should reflect and think twice before they accuse the opposition of disruption.
To make for the lost time during the previous session, the government hinted at a preponed winter session and keep ample push key legislations.
The need of the hour is to bury the past and look to future of country. We must work together more than members of in parliament. Broader understanding on national priorities is very important.
In the last 2 days of the monsoon session, the government tried to move the GST amendment bill twice but failed in the face of consistent pressure from the opposition. However, the government still hopes to meet its April 2016 deadline to roll out the new tax regime. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Meanwhile, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley has once again made the case for an early implementation of the goods and services tax reform. Speaking at a function in Kochi on Thursday, Jaitley said that the present indirect taxation system is a complete mess.
Today you have an Indian taxation system for indirect taxes which is in a complete mess. Now some taxes are state taxes, some taxes are central taxes. So can we not have a system that there is no tax on tax? There is an ease in the movement of goods and services.
Moving on to news from poll-bound Bihar now, NDA leaders continue to hold meetings to formulate a seat-sharing deal between allies for the Bihar Assembly polls. For the second day, former Chief Minister Jitan Ram Manjhi met BJP leader Anant Kumar in Delhi amid hints of feud between him and LJP President Ramvilas Paswan. However, the BJP assured there is no difference among allies and a seat-sharing deal will be finalized soon.
The countdown has begun for the Bihar polls, and the NDA has stepped up its effort to finalize seat-sharing deals among the allies. Hectic talks continued in Delhi as HAM's chief Jitan Ram Manjhi met BJP leader Anant Kumar for the second day on Thursday. His tussle with LJP chief Ramvilas Paswan over Dalit leadership has put the alliance in a spot. RLSP chief and Union Minister Upendra Kushwaha also met Anant Kumar to discuss possible seat share agreement.
हम लोगों ने अपनी पार्टी राष्ट्रीय लोक समता पार्टी की ओर से एक पत्र लिखकर श्री अमित शाह जी से कहा है कि जो भी तय करना हो भारतीय जनता पार्टी तय करे. हम लोग बिल्कुल उनके निर्णय से सहमत होंगे. कहीं कोई कठिनाई नहीं होगी, लेकिन जल्दी तय हो जाए. निर्णय भारतीय जनता पार्टी को लेना चाहिए.
मेरे भाई उपेंद्र कुशवाहा जी ने अभी माननीय राष्ट्रीय अध्यक्ष भारतीय जनता पार्टी अमित शाह जी को एक पत्र लिख करके भारतीय जनता पार्टी ये टिकटों के वितरण के बारे में वो निर्णय करे, ऐसे जो उन्होंने प्रस्ताव रखा है ये बहुत सराहनीय है और इसका मैं स्वागत करता हूं.
According to sources, BJP wants a lion's share of seats, but allies, especially LJP and RLSP, have sought more seats for themselves. These two parties helped BJP sweep Bihar in the Lok Sabha polls last year. The three parties won 31 out of 40 seats. Jitan Ram Manjhi too wants a fair share as well, but BJP has so far been non-committal. NDA will be locked in a tight contest with the Janta Parivar alliance, who have already finalized seat-sharing deal and is upbeat to stop the BJP-led alliance from returning to power in Bihar.
180 हमारे गठबंधन को आएगा. आप कोई माने न माने,
आज जो लोग मेहनत किए हैं अपना ठीक है बोल रहे हैं, लेकिन 180 आएगा और नरेंद्र मोदी को बिहार आईना दिखाएगा.
Bihar will go to polls in 5 phases spread over a month starting October 12th. The results will be declared on 8th of November. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Moving on, now the Bombay High Court will today hear a petition over a meat ban for 4 days during the Jain festival of Paryushan. The court will, while seeking a response from the state and the municipal body, had said on Thursday that imposing a ban would not be feasible in a city like Mumbai. Meanwhile, a ban on sale of meat has also been imposed in Rajasthan. The Jammu and Kashmir High Court has also ordered the state government to strictly enforce a beef ban in the state. Here's more.
Mumbai's meat ban spilled onto the streets on Thursday, taking a political colour. Defying an order passed by the BMC, both Shiv Sena and MNS opened roadside stalls to sell meat. The Mumbai Municipal Corporation had banned the sale of meat for 4 days on the 10th, 13th, 17th and 18th of September. This was done in the wake of the Jain festival Paryushan. After Mumbai, Rajasthan also announced a ban on the sale of meat and fish for 3 days of the Jain festival.
भारतीय जनता पार्टी ने कोई भी ऐसा निर्णय नहीं किया है.
BJP should have consulted the Shiv Sena before and the other allies before making this announcement.
बॉम्बे में भी जो फैसला लिया वहाँ के सरकार ने महाराष्ट्र के, वो सही नहीं था.
पर्युषण पर्व का मतलब ही सीधा सीधा यही है कि अहिंसा परमो धर्म के सिद्धांत पे जैन समाज चलता है और किसी प्रकार की जो अहिंसा है उसको रोके. तो मैं समझता हूँ इशू बनाने का कोई विषय नहीं है.
जब से ये गवर्नमेंट आई है तब से अनावश्यक रूप से विवाद कैसे खड़े करें उस सिद्धांत पे चल रही है.
The J&K High Court also ordered a ban on sale of beef across the state after hearing a PIL. The court said it hurts the religious sentiments of a section of society.
It's a debate which is in process in the whole of country whether the food habits of the people should be codified by the state or not. People know what the eating sensitivities are. So I think these things should be left to the people.
The BJP, which rules both Maharashtra and Rajasthan, has said that the decision was taken by the civic bodies and the state government has no role to play in it. The Bombay High Court will take up the plea of mutton traders on Friday. They have approached the court saying the ban on the sale of meat discriminates against their right to a livelihood. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, a verdict is expected in the 9-year-old Mumbai train blast case. 188 people were killed and 829 were injured after 7 RDX bombs exploded in the first-class coaches of Mumbai suburban trains on July 11, 2006. A special Maharashtra Control of Organised Crime Act court is likely to pronounce its verdict today. A total of 192 witnesses were examined in a trial that lasted 8 years. It's time now for a short break, but still to come. US Open Women's semi-finals postponed due to heavy rain. That and much more on the other side. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Today we bring to you the Bureau of Indian Standards Bill 2015.
These amendments were very much required and they are long overdue.
My biggest problem with this bill is that it seeks to place several activities into a single place.
Watch Law of the Land Saturday at 6:30 p.m. on Rajya Sabha television.
Welcome back. You're watching Rajya Sabha television. Well, China is displaying immense confidence and optimism in the face of an economic slowdown. Speaking to global investors at the Summer Davos Forum, Premier Li Keqiang said that his country will never advocate a currency war. He promised a bright future for the economy, calling for international cooperation in difficult times.
Chinese Premier Li Keqiang sought to allay fears of global business leaders at the summer Davos. Keqiang assured them that the Chinese economy that has caused fluctuations in global markets the last few weeks is running within a proper range. He said though it is growing at a slow rate, it is characterized by resistance and self-recovery.
走势是缓趋稳，稳中向好，但稳中有难。总体上，机遇大于挑战，正是大众的。
Li pointed out that even under the current circumstance, China achieved 7% growth in the first half of 2015, which is no easy task. China's contribution was 30% of the world economic growth. Li also said structural reforms being brought about target long-term stability and sound development.
不论他们成功与否，可以说他们是在扮演着新领军者的角色。
China is still struggling to stabilize the yuan after its surprise devaluation, but denied it being for a currency war.
中国绝不主张打货币仗。我们讲国际产能合作，难免有竞争，但是如果我们合作起来， The
Premier stressed that it has become increasingly urgent for all countries to work together to get the global economy back on track. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Well, joining me this morning for a chat is Senior Editor of the Economic Times, Himanshu Vats. Very good morning, Himanshu, and thank you for joining me on the program. You know, Premier Li Keqiang's message at the Summer Davos Forum, what kind of an impact really is it likely to have on international markets?
Well, there'll be some degree of reassurance to the international market, but you know, the overall concerns about the way China is doing are pretty high up on the minds and the agenda of all the market players. The Chinese economy, you know, the growth rate is the slowest in 25 years, and you know, the world depends a lot on the demand from China. On the other hand, the way China is progressing now, there is a conscious shift from a export-driven, export-demand economy to a domestic economy, and a shift from, you know, major infrastructure projects, heavy industry growth, to increase in local consumption, technology, services. So growth does slow down, but on the whole, there is also an issue of credibility of what the Chinese say. A growing number of Western analysts are saying that a lot of the economic data may not be what Chinese claim it is. So it's a wait and watch policy. The tumbling of the shares in China are also a concern. And in a sense, what the Chinese premier said would be expected. You know, he's the head of the country, so he'll obviously go and say, look, things are not so bad, we'll not have a hard landing.
So would you say then China is in far bigger trouble than is actually being portrayed by the Chinese?
Well, that's the view of you know, many experts in the West, and that is significant because the Western economies depend a lot. They have a major dependence on Chinese supplies. They purchase a lot of things from China. Unlike India, you know, which is not so directly linked to the Chinese economy. So it is pretty much possible that the Chinese problem may be bigger than what the state agencies are admitting. That's the view of many experts. You know, they have pointed out things like, you know, Chinese unemployment number have almost been constant throughout, which is very unlikely. And some state agencies at times are given different numbers than what the official statistic is. So it's possible the numbers are, you know, the problem might be deeper than it is confessed. And also remember, it's not a free society, it's not a democracy. Indeed. So, you know, had it been an open democracy like India, then the government numbers have much more credibility.
Indeed,
whereas China is a very strongly centralized economy.
You know, the devaluation of the yuan saw a cascading effect all across the world. And, you know, the premier has reassured the entire world that, you know, such kind of a thing is not going to happen. They're going to ensure that the currency is stabilized. But what really is going to happen in the near future is very difficult to say. But what's the solution to the problem in the long run?
See, in the long run, China has to accept a market rate for its currency, a genuinely free-floating currency. As of now, because it has got such heavy investment in manufacturing capacity, and a lot of which is underutilized, so there will be natural pressures within the economy that you devalue the currency so that their exports can pick up again. But and also, if you actually shift to a more open market force, market play, then the authorities need to get used to sharp fluctuations in various aspects of the economy, whether it is the flow of capital, whether it is the swings in the market. But the way the Chinese have reacted so far, they've had a huge crackdown on anybody who might be selling shares. They even caught a journalist and made him apologize on TV, saying that he did a story which might have led to a fall in shares. Any institution who has 5% holding in a Chinese company is not allowed to sell.
Right.
So all this is creating a lot of phobia. So what people say is that the next stage of reform has to be, letting go of some more power by the government. And that, I think, is the long-term solution, because it has come to a point in its liberalization journey where centralized control and draconian measures will scare away investors.
All right, Himanshu, we'll have to leave it to that. Thank you so much for joining us on the program today and putting things into perspective for us as far as the Chinese Premier's statement and Chinese economy is concerned. Moving on now, unprecedented rains in Japan have unleashed heavy floods in the country's northeast. Scores of houses and cars have been washed away. More than 1 lakh people have been displaced from their homes. Rescue operations are underway to airlift people stranded on their rooftops. The government has set up an emergency center to coordinate the safe evacuation of people. Here's more.
Widespread flooding and landslides in northeast Japan have forced nearly 1 lakh people to abandon their homes. The city of Jozo, north of capital city Tokyo, has been the worst hit. The gushing waters of Kinugawa River have washed away hundreds of houses, forcing residents to their rooftops, desperate for rescue by military helicopters.
初めてですね。いくらね、水風吹いたとしてもこんな状態は見なかったね。ここも何十年も。
Local media reports say 2 people went missing after riverbanks burst in cities north of Tokyo following days of heavy rain. Scores of people are still stranded, waiting to be airlifted. The government is yet to assess the extent of damage.
上において各省庁が全力でまず現実の対応をですね取り組むということを徹底をすることであります。
The Meteorological Agency of Japan said the rainfall was unprecedented for that part of the country. Prime Minister Shinzo Abe has expressed concern at the scale of the disaster.
今後も地域が経験したことがないような大雨が降り続く恐れがあります。政府一丸となって人命の安全確保を第一に災害応急対策に万全を期してまいります。
Record-breaking rain has prompted authorities to issue rare weather warnings for 5 million people in eastern Japan. Some areas received more than twice their usual monthly September rain in just 48 hours by Thursday, after tropical storm Itaú cut across the main island of Honshu. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Here's a look now at what else is making news across the globe in our World Wrap. In a significant win for the White House, Senate Democrats blocked a Republican resolution of disapproval of the Iran nuclear deal from going to a final vote on Thursday. It means that President Barack Obama will not be forced to veto the legislation. The vote on the procedural motion to move to a final vote with 60 votes to pass failed 58 to 42. Obama welcomed the outcome, saying it was a victory for diplomacy, for American national security, and for the safety and security of the world. The UN General Assembly has overwhelmingly voted in favor of a motion allowing the Palestinian flag to be flown in front of UN buildings. The motion was passed by 119 votes, with Israel and the US among the 8 countries that voted against it. Most of the 28-nation European Union were among the 45 nations that abstained from voting. However, France and more than half a dozen others voted in favor of the Palestinian resolution after the EU split on the issue. The move comes amid growing momentum to recognize Palestine statehood, with several states showing their support in the past year. South Sudan's parliament unanimously voted on Thursday to adopt a peace deal agreed last month by President Salva Kiir and rebel leader Riek Machar. The deal comes amid mounting pressure on both sides to lay down their arms. The world's newest country has been ravaged by war since December 2013, when soldiers loyal to Kiir clashed with troops loyal to his former deputy Riek Machar. Sporadic fighting has continued since then, with both sides blaming each other for ceasefire violations. The fractious power-sharing government in Northern Ireland effectively collapsed on Thursday as leader of the majority party, Peter Robinson, resigned as the province's chief executive. It was the latest chapter in a political crisis prompted by claims from the police that Irish Republican Army operatives were involved in the murder of a former member last month. The move came after other parties refused to vote to suspend assembly business pending an investigation into the allegations as demanded by Robinson. He later warned that all but one of his party's members would follow him in stepping down from the Northern Ireland Assembly. Moving on to some sports news now. The US Open women's semi-final scheduled to be played on Thursday evening has been postponed. The women's semi-finals were postponed with heavy rains forecast. Both the men's and the women's semis will now be played later this evening. Earlier, the play was scheduled to begin at 7 p.m. local time, with world number 1 Serena Williams taking on Italian Roberta Vinci. That match was to be followed by second seed Simona Halep facing Flavia Pennetta of Italy. The men's semi-finals will take place after the conclusion of the women's matches. Top seed Novak Djokovic faces defending champion Marin Cilic first, with second seed Roger Federer taking on fellow Swiss Stanislas Wawrinka in the other match. The rainy conditions did not prevent the men's double semi-finals from going ahead as scheduled on Thursday. In some more sports news now, India's Parupalli Kashyap advanced to the third round of the Japan Open Super Series badminton tournament in Tokyo. He is the lone Indian left in the ongoing badminton tournament. The unseeded Kashyap advanced to the next round after prevailing over world number 4 Kidambi Srikanth 21-11, 21-19 in an all-Indian contest that lasted 45 minutes. Kashyap will take on 6th seed Chao Tien Chen of Chinese Taipei today. In other fixtures, world number 1 Saina Nehwal and world number 12 H.S. Pranoy failed to cross the second round. World Championship silver medalist Saina suffered a 13-21, 16-21 loss to local star shuttler Minatsu Mitani in the women's singles, while Pranoy failed to get across Lee Dong-kyun and went down 9-21, 16-21 to the Korean. Well, let's take a look now at some more overnight sports news in our Sports Beat. Indians collected a rich haul of 7 medals, including 2 gold, on the penultimate day of competitions at the 5th Commonwealth Youth Games in Samoa. Archer Prachi Singh bagged a gold in the girls' recurve individual event, while the tennis mixed doubles team of Shashikumar Mukund and Dhruti Venugopal clinched the gold. India occupies 6th spot in the medals tally with a total haul of 17 medals, which include 7 gold, 4 silver and 6 bronze. Ahead of India in the medals table are Australia, England, South Africa, Malaysia and New Zealand. Australia will take on England today in the 4th ODI of the 5-match one-day series. Australia hope to gain a measure of revenge for their Ashes defeat by wrapping up the series with a victory over England at Headingley. The tourists lead the 5-match series 2-1 after wins at Southampton and Lords before England's 93-run victory at Old Trafford on Tuesday. American sprinter Justin Gatlin has said that he believes he is steadily catching up with Olympic and world champion Usain Bolt. Both Gatlin and Bolt head into a likely race-off at the Olympic Games in Rio de Janeiro next year. Gatlin was unbeaten at 100 meters and 200 meters in 2015 until he faced an out-of-form Bolt going into the World Championships in Beijing last month. However, Bolt won the 100-meter final in 9.79 seconds, just 100th of a second ahead of Gatlin, before securing gold in the 200 meters in more convincing fashion. Well, that's it on this edition of the Breakfast News. Have a nice day.